Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today. For this episode of Grilled, I'll be speaking with Teresa Shaver, the CEO of BACD, or the Business Advisory Council of Durham. Teresa is an amazing business person in the area and runs a few of her own projects on the side, as well as being just an amazing support for entrepreneurs and people who are interested in becoming an entrepreneur in the Durham region. We'll mostly be talking a bit about the effects of COVID, and we get a little bit more general with how things are going and how people can be looking at their personal lives in the face of this. But I think it's a really interesting conversation, and Teresa is an amazing person to have some insight from. So thank you for joining me on this one.
Yeah.
A tough situation, Andrew.
Yeah.
These are not normal times. Like none of us have ever experienced this. So who knows? It's uncharted waters all the time, right?
Yeah. I mean, not since like 1918 has something like this happened. So, in the terms of the pandemic side, there's been like the World War rationing people are talking about, but
Yeah.
I think it was a different battle there because that was like a resource issue, whereas this is like so it's like a health issue, and it also, some of the other interviews I've done, it's because of the forced isolation, it really makes mental health difficult. You're kind of
Very.
separated from everyone around you. It's, when things are tough in a resource situation, you can at least, talk to people and have that social support circle. In this case, all you have is like this, virtual, which is good, but
I'm actually glad I have this. Like I don't actually feel isolated from it. Like sure, I haven't seen a lot of my friends, but I'm sewing masks for the front line. So I'm as busy as I can ever be sewing masks and working. Like the business is busy.
I was actually going to mention that today that I saw your CBC News article about Canada Sews, and that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
cool.
So I happened to just be one of the sewers, but they didn't want to be the spokesperson. So they said, would I do it? So I said, okay, sure. Why not? We probably have like 4,000 people that are part of the group now, just sewing their butts off. So
Wow. And you're at
yeah,
7,500 orders when on the
we
article?
were when I put that up. I would imagine it's more now. I need to look at the website. We actually keep that separate from the website, but it doesn't add up to how many there is, but I'd have to get one of the girls to aggregate the information.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is it like a free thing? Or are they paying for the masks?
No, they're free.
Oh,
So we're getting donated materials and then we go through a whole process. We wash it, then we make it, then it gets washed again. Then we deliver it to the UPS store. Then the UPS stores are shipping them for us.
oh, awesome. And do they
Yeah.
have like a deal that because it's a support and charity thing, they don't charge you for the shipping?
No, I don't think they are.
Oh, that's
No.
nice.
It started out like last Sunday, literally. It's a week old. We started out with just doing it in Durham. And then it just started to grow. So, I mean, I myself have only made like 35 masks, but I can only sew at night. So I don't have much time. But there are other people that are super duper making 50, 100.
Wow.
Amazing. It's
Yeah, but
amazing what we can do.
that's a lot of work anyways, to if you had all day to
Actually,
sew
it
all
takes
day.
quite a while to put them together. It's not simple. You've got to have two pockets and four ties, and you got to make the ties in a way that they don't unravel when they get washed. So, like, yeah, I'm certainly not doing it fast.
Wow. And what do you think
Anyway.
of the announcement that initially they were saying that masks weren't helpful, but now they're saying masks are helpful? Um,
I think that was to stop the frenzy, honestly, of people going to go and buy them.
yeah, I've heard that that be the popular theory as well, and I was just wondering if you would agree to that.
So I never agreed that, oh, we don't know masks will like we won't catch it from someone. Well, if the droplets are going out, if we had something on the face, that's going to stop the droplets going in, and it's going to stop us touching our faces.
Yep. Yeah, it's like twice as effective, really. You're right. Yeah.
Anyway,
So
I'm
let's.
sure you want to talk to me about business.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, for sure, both. I mean, definitely Canada Sows was one thing I wanted to bring up.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I was wondering, you've already kind of answered it, but in terms of the effects of everything going on the BACD and what you do, have you noticed like a decline, an incline? Is it kind of staying the same with the switch to virtual?
Right. So we closed on March the 13th, right? And we closed and said, okay, as of Monday, we'll be working on the office, but nobody's allowed in, right? And we're going to make everything virtual. So By Sunday night, it actually looked like we should just keep the office closed and not actually even have people coming in and not go to the office, because I also wanted to protect my staff from being exposed and being part of the group of people that are moving around all the time. So I felt like, you know what, we should work from home. Now, over the years, I've already set up all our systems that they're cloud-based, that you can work virtually, that we can, we've run workshops through the year. It wasn't hard for us actually to just like switch on Monday morning, let's start virtually. I think perhaps what's hard for us and many teams is feeling that isolation, or just feeling that you don't have the same relationship, right? Because now you're online. But I've felt pretty okay with it. Like, we, as our team, we meet every day. We actually meet on Google Meet every morning and just discuss, day in life. And it's hard to be cooped up in your house every day, I think, for some people. But we try to keep that social connection going. And I think for our businesses too, some of them feel very isolated. Some of them feel like, I think all of us feel scared in some way, or some fear or some anxiety, because it's just the unknown.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. And I keep coming back to, I've had a couple of, of my own episodes, but I have to keep coming back to, what can I control? What do I have control over every day? And really the only thing I have control over is myself and my attitude and my behaviors, my thoughts, that sort of thing. And so, I need to keep that in mind for myself. I need to help my team, help my customers, our clients. We are busier than ever. And it's not just with people that are like, I need to pay my rent, or I have a problem or this. There are still people wanting to start businesses. There are people now who have time to think about what their business is like. There's people who can think about what strategies, how can I, reinvent myself? How can I, learn some skills that I can now learn to do content creation and videos and, editing things. So they now have that time for that list that's always just been like a to-do list.
Yep.
So we're busy.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine definitely with the support, but it's interesting for, looking at going into what is definitely going to be a recession, and everything like that, having so many people excited to start a business. That's very cool, because I think that's also kind of necessary, in the face of this, is to have enough people that are willing to kind of do something and stimulate the economy despite what's happening in the policy, right?
And I hope we're smart. When we come out the other end of this, I think businesses are going to be very different. And I really think like we should be supporting our small businesses. Yes, you can buy from here and there online. In some cases you have to, but there are many cases that you choose where those dollars go. Yeah. And so, choose to support that small business, because at the end of the day, this whole bailout package, we're all going to be paying for it in taxes at some point after this. And so if we support the smaller businesses and they make money, then hopefully there isn't that much of a bailout that they all need, right? Yep. And that helps really what we have to pay back in the end. And we're in this together, really. We're all feeling this. I don't know. So maybe there's industries that are profiting from this right now, but they are under immense stress and numbers. And there's industries, for sure, the health industry is healthy. Like, it's the economy is good for the health industry, yeah, but it's not good for the frontline workers that are getting traumatized and having to deal with, the amount of stuff they're having to deal with through this.
And they're walking off because they're not getting enough PPEs because of that stress and that supply chain of the equipment, right? So
true.
Yeah.
So true. And that's concerning too, right? And we are not prepared for this. No, I don't imagine any of our economic systems are prepared for this, because why would we stockpile 5 billion masks somewhere and PPE equipment? And we just wouldn't. We would buy it just in time because it's based on what we need. So we had lead time. We probably knew from January that we should have stockpiled, but we didn't think it would be this serious. Like, I don't know what people think.
Well, even the who are supposed to be the experts on this thing were telling people it would be okay, keep flying, keep doing stuff, right, at the time. So it's tough to know. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Do you know, in terms of businesses that are now working remotely in the face of this, how many do you think are going to go back to the office once everything rolls in? Or do you think they've maybe learned that like it's not that necessary to have everybody sit in a big cubicle space and, you know, do that way when you can have a remote setting that's maybe more efficient, possibly? I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see actually how businesses shake out after this. I think some of them are going to feel like, I want to actually go into a space where we can be together as people, collaborating. But I also think there's not going to be such a hold to really be in a physical space if you don't need to be. And maybe we'll be more, what's the word, more focused. No, focus is not, like more streamlined in your operations, but then still provide opportunities to come together. But maybe being in a physical space is not your number one need. So it's so hard to predict actually what's going to fall out from all of this, and because we don't even know what's going to happen in real estate, and if businesses really are going to change, and are they going to change the way they do business, right? There's a lot of businesses that just can't do business online. They
Oh, yeah.
can run some of their processes through business online, but they can't do the whole business online. So like a massage therapist or a chiropractor, like they can do some educating and helping, but they can't really teach someone to adjust themselves. And they can't teach someone to massage themselves. Well, you can maybe do some of it, but maybe neck and back is a little difficult, or they can teach, use balls. But those types of businesses are constrained by the type of service. It's a personal service. They can't. Cleaning companies too, it's really hard right now for cleaning companies too, that nobody really wants to go into each other's houses,
Yeah.
even though it's an essential service.
Yeah, even like with the restaurant industry where I'm predominantly in, it's
Yeah.
been a lot of shifting to get takeout. But traditionally, the model was if you wanted to have an awesome restaurant, you'd spend a lot of money on the decor and the atmosphere and have like a really excellent place to like exist for a while, right? And now, all of those places have had to move completely to go, which is, sort of effective. But now if everybody's doing to go, there's so much choice on the market. It makes it a little bit more difficult. It's more difficult to choose a place.
Right.
I find like, if there's 23 different hamburgers and I don't have the ability to choose based on how great the place is to sit in, where do I go, right? So
Good point. So now, what we've been doing at home, my husband, his business is dead too after this. Um, but what we've been doing is just pick one restaurant every week and
okay.
just order a meal. And even then, I have to, one is enough because we're going to be like my husband's business, overnight, there's no business. So I have to be careful. I don't have extra money to spend either.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Now, kind of back to all these people that are starting their businesses in the face of this, which is really cool. How are you guys sort of facilitating that? I know, like,
Yeah.
just my personal speaking with the banks and stuff like that, they're not really interested in loaning right now because of the stress on the system. It's very difficult to get a business loan that has any kind of overhead. So, kind of,
Right.
how are you guys supporting and encouraging entrepreneurship right now?
Sure. So there's a lot of people still interested that were probably not affected by this. I mean, they're affected now because they're isolated, but perhaps they're already in the place where they were starting to work on their side hustle, or they were starting to work full time or think full time, or, they were already not working. So there's a lot of people like that. So then they still just having some time to refine that business idea. But the businesses who need loans, there's actually quite a few different financial vehicles out there. So there is the one that's $40,000 with the $10,000 forgivable.
Right.
That's an interest-free loan. And then there's also a working capital loan that people can get from BDC. It's right on their website. You can apply for up to 100,000. So there's that one. But I think that one, you still need good credit.
And from what I know, the $100,000 one, you need to have 2 years of history with your company. So
Right.
makes it a
Right. So
little
that's
bit.
a tough one, right?
Yeah.
For that one. But Futurepreneur is a loan as well. So some businesses can probably get Futurepreneur funding if it's a brand new business. So that funds working capital. I don't know if you ever did that one way back when.
Yeah, that was actually the main avenue that I went through was Futurepreneur.
Right. Yeah. So, and I mean, have they made any concessions with you yet?
Oh,
Like,
totally. Yeah, them and the BDC actually are very good right now in terms
right.
of not necessarily giving new credit, but postponing all payments on the credit you had previously, which
Right,
has really saved me for sure. And
right.
as this goes on, will save me more. So,
Exactly. I also saw yesterday that BMO sent me a letter saying, look, if you have credit lines and business accounts and all that, speak to us. We'll help you defer the payment. So I think it's dependent on each bank. So, really your job is to like figure out quickly what are your expenses, where are they going, and phone up all the places. It's going to unfortunately be a case by case basis.
oh yeah,
Like in my family, I'm not necessarily going to stop anything at the moment because I don't I'd rather give it to someone who needs it more. Like, you know, my husband hopefully will get the $2,000 a month, and then we can hump along on that, just cut back on some expenses. And sadly now we used to go out to restaurants fairly often, and now we can't, but we can still order from them once a week. I also think, I mean, for your employees, there's definitely like the EI, like they're trying hard to work around all the scenarios. I don't know. I actually asked an accountant today what some of the specifics are around the EI, because it said you have to have a $5,000 in employment income. But what happens if you don't? What happens if you were at a maternity leave? What happens if you were studying outside the country? Those are things that will not make you eligible. So I'm hoping they can give me some feedback on that. But at BACD, we changed like our general services that we still run are still running. Like everything is still going. We have workshops and webinars. So like every week we run a startup session that goes through the basics of starting a business. Every week we're running a business plan masterclass. So that's for people who need to maybe apply for loans and put forward financial documents. So we're doing a business plan and a cash flow forecast in that. And so that's staying busy as well. So, and then we have our business fundamentals. We're running a whole bunch of webinars with different experts. So some of our stuff is free. We're certainly sensitive to try and do as much free as possible, but some I've got to pay these people. It's their livelihood. And so I've got to figure out, sure, I'm not paying them what they're worth, but there are some that we still have to try and recoup some money for them.
for sure. Yeah, and honestly, you guys do an amazing service. Like, there's a lot of that information that you wouldn't be able to do, your business or to move forward with that entrepreneurial goal without knowing that information. So,
Thank
uh,
you. Yeah.
it took me like I think 6 months to write my business plan to the point where I was comfortable going for my loans. So,
We could have helped you with that.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, and I've heard also, I believe it was Uchi who mentioned the Starter Plus program that you guys are operating now. What's
So
sort
we
of
are.
the-
So the Start a Company Plus program is what it is. So it's for people that are actually market ready already, and like they're kind of in business. They're under a year in business. And it's a $5,000 grant that you don't have to pay back. Right at this very moment, the government has delayed our funding. So we don't actually have the money to pay the grant.
Whew, okay.
I don't think we'll have it before the end of May. So we can run the program and get everybody through it and get them approved. But there's a chance that the money is delayed. I mean, I'm hoping we have a contract with the government, but like these would be the times where they could cancel those contracts because we've got a pandemic here and we've got to send the money elsewhere.
Yeah,
Right. So I'm hoping that's not the case, but you can only do what you can do, right?
for sure. And like, if part of that program is learning those skills anyways, then, you can take that and transfer it to another financial institution while you're waiting or to do something in the meantime. So,
Yeah.
and you guys have amazing follow-up. I know that for sure.
Thank
So
you.
being able to,
We try. We think of you often and see you on Facebook, and I'm like, I better reach out to Andrew. And then I think I did on Facebook. But then I said, Patrice, look, I reached out to Andrew. Why don't you reach out to him and see how he's doing? Because it's hard for all of you guys. Like, you got your head full of all the things you're trying to figure out and all the balls in the air. And so to be fair to you, I might not be your first priority if you've got to speak to your bank and do this and do that and do this, right? But maybe now's the time for you to also think about how do I pivot my model so that I blend the model. So there's some virtual and there's some in person, right?
Yeah,
And maybe that helps you with your business going forward, that you actually cover all kind of consumer markets,
Yeah, and it gives you bigger reach if you're doing something digital too, right? That people who were just in Durham might not be able to
Yeah,
fully, you can now take advantage of the fact that you can play Dungeons and Dragons or board games virtually,
right.
like you've said. So definitely that first week when everything went down for restaurants in particular was very much just calling every single person that I have an account with and explaining the situation to them and figuring out what we can do. And it was uh, it was just calls and calls and calls for a solid while there, just making sure all my accounts were settled and made sense.
Yeah,
And luckily, most of what I was doing was like buying product and then either cooking it or selling it as retail. So
right,
those are pretty easy conversations to have. And like, okay, I'm not going
right.
to be able to buy anything from you for a while, or let me figure out what I can do to be able to continue to have a business relationship with you. But it was like all of the other classic things that you forget about. Like I forgot about once a month you do your pest inspection, and I usually get my invoice at the start of the month, and then I have my inspection at the end of the month, and everything happened like in the middle. So like last week, my inspector called me and was like, "Hey, are you here?" And like, "Are we doing this?" And I'm like, "Oh wow, yeah, I forgot. I called everybody else, and I forgot about you. Yeah, no, making
It's
sure,
true.
but we're down for a while. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And cleaners, you got to tell your cleaners we're not there, so don't come in.
yeah, and your cloth service and your knife service and all those guys. So it's it definitely is a good time to take a look at all of your expenses and make sure that all of your accounts you've set up over the course of your year or your business up to this
You
point.
still need them, yes.
Yeah, double check. And also, you're right. It's kind of a good catch up period, right? Like you've got all these. Now it's easy to say, all right, I'm paying $65 a month for this. Where does that fit into my budget? Like for sure,
Yeah,
like definitely, because you kind of have your rough ideas of like, okay, like I know this much is going out each month, but where is it going exactly? And it's a good time to double check that you're doing everything. And
true. I mean, even at BACD, we've had to go, what are non-essential items right now? What are non-essential? Don't buy them.
yep,
Delay. Because and if I'm doing it, I'm sure everybody else is doing it too, right? Delay buying, delay making a decision. Like if you don't need it, don't buy it because
for
it's
sure.
just not necessary for sure. And I mean, that's the hard part is all of us are holding on to our money, right?
Right. Yeah.
We're not opening the purse, but I think as soon as this is over, we'll all be back at it, I'm sure, and want to get a really good perspective on what it means to support your local community and what it means to be part of a local community and what all of us as human beings mean. And I think, that's a good thing. We need to become a bit more conscious of the ripple effect we have by the decisions we make and the places we shop and the stores we visit. And, we want to, like, I have a balance between those, but I try and always to support local businesses and because it's harder for them, right? Amazon's probably got big engines and they're still going great. Sure, we could have learned from them to have similar models, right?
Yeah.
If anything, what's hard for small business is that they haven't adapted with the times. They haven't adapted to provide the experience online for customers, right? Even if they can book online, can they research online? Can they decide online? Can they and that's what we need to do as a small business. You need to give them the Amazon's experience, but
Yeah.
in your small location, and I think we can do that. Like I really do. And one of our clients, Alicia Jones from AJ Creative, started Durham Region Online.ca. So it's like a marketplace for Durham Region. So if businesses have a digital offer, or something where they offer, something online, then you can be part of that directory.
That's very cool.
That might be, it's a free directory. It might be worth it. Is really looking. I would love to see just like one place that has a marketplace, for everybody. But it's so tough because each region wants to have its own flag of, we're supporting local kind of thing.
Well, and
It's
then when
supporting
you
Ontario, supporting Canada. That is supporting local. That is supporting our own manufacturing. And maybe through all of this, we'll learn to come back to things where if you control the supply chain, if it's all in Canada and we're creating jobs for everybody and we're creating products and services, then people are buying it, then I think our economy will do well.
be more insulated for sure against this kind of thing and these disruptions, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the danger though of consolidating everything into like a Canadian Amazon or something like that or a Canadian directory is that you end up with just another Amazon, right? Where you've got all these different sellers that are still small businesses and there's this one platform that is doing very well, right? So I think that's the only scare with sort of all these small businesses giving their power up that way.
Yes, it's
Um,
true.
but definitely there needs to be some shifting into the digital space for most of these businesses. I think the other thing with small businesses, like a lot of the people that I know in the community, are their scope is so small, right? So it's tough for them to ever grow to a very large point because they're more interested in this like kind of narrow defined space that they do really well in, but only here, and it can't really get much bigger, right? So
Right. That's where the scalability is an issue, right? And so I would say for a business, if you can figure out a way for number one, to run it virtually, and number two, to scale it, then you're in the pound seats. And there are some businesses that can scale and some that just can't. But you can scale by hiring more people to scale the service. You can also scale by bringing in more services or more products. Like you can add a product, like for you might be able not to scale your physical location. Well, I think you will be able to after this is over, but like say that's one of your barriers, then scale online somehow. Think about what I can offer online. um, Number one, the experience, and number two, the products, right?
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
No,
always easy though to come up with all these solutions though.
well, especially when you're so stressed, right? I think that's the thing.
We can't actually easily be creative when we're so stressed out as people, right? Like it's not easy to think of solutions.
Yeah.
But like here's one of the things that always keeps me going. Whether I worry about today, whether I worry about tomorrow or not, it's still going to come. Like tomorrow is still going to be here if I survive and sleep through the night and make it to the next day. Like so ruining today, worrying about tomorrow is just ruining today, you know?
Yeah.
And so again, I go back to I have to control my attitude. I have to control my thoughts. I have to turn off the news. I have to keep myself positive. I listen to like YouTube a lot. I listen to a whole bunch of different coaches that talk about mental health and positivity and controlling my own thought systems, right? So that I don't feel crappy, because when I feel crappy, I don't make good decisions. Like, well, this is where people are like drinking a ton and eating and
Yeah.
because we're like, well, if we can do nothing else, we can eat and we can drink, right? Well, that's not health. That's not good for our health, for our own health anyway. And then when we eat crappy, then all of a sudden our mental health is not good because we're affecting that, right?
Yep.
Like, so it's a very interesting lesson that we're going through. Also, just a lesson on self-care, right? And both mentally and physically.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's actually difficult too because a lot of the gyms have shut down. So if you're trying to do any kind of physical self-care, you've now got to look at what you can do in your house or in your neighborhood that's, easier to stay fit.
I got that figured out. I years ago put a gym in my own house. So I use YouTube and I dance. I do walking. I do stepping. I do high intensity intervals. I do aerobics. I don't care. I do yoga. I do whatever. Like I find half an hour. I search half an hour Pilates, half an hour yoga, half an hour high intensity. And you don't really need any equipment. You can use your body. If you do need equipment, well, look at the tin cans and things that you might have that you can use, right? Or heavy things, furniture you can lift. So you can do it. I mean, sure, you're by yourself, but there's lots of options. And I even think there's some organizations that live stream free yoga classes and free Pilates and free CrossFit. And like, we've got it. This is a time for self-care, both mentally and physically, for sure. Um,
Yeah.
It's tough. This is tough. Like, there's no way around this. This is tough for like everybody. I don't know anybody that's not affected by this. Like, you're either stuck in your house or you're stuck having to go out and expose yourself. So you've got both options. So.
Yeah, I think actually having to go out is almost scarier right now too, because you're worried about your own health, but then when you go and you come back to your family or whoever you're staying with,
Yeah.
you're worried about bringing that to them. So
Yeah, my immune system is compromised, so I'm really careful about going out. And my husband's actually the one who goes, and he wears gloves and a mask, and that's just his choice. Everybody do what you want to do, but he feels more comfortable doing that since he's the one who's got to go out. So like, you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, there'll be people who will be afraid of going out in the future.
sure. Now,
But
I do
we
like to
gotta
end
let it
this
go.
on a positive note, which
Yeah, we
is,
gotta let it go, right? And we can focus on what we can control,
yeah,
find the beauty in every day.
exactly. And if you do need something to escape to, what have you been like doing to do that? Is it are there books you're
Just,
reading? Is it just YouTube? What is your kind of go-to right now? What's the best thing that makes you
yeah,
feel good?
mine's YouTube. So I like to sew. So I follow a whole bunch of sewers or people that sew. I I also follow like a whole bunch of positive psychology people. So like Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Anita Moriani. I Vanessa Simpkins is another one. And Mary Kate's another one. I just find that it takes my focus off of my head and puts it on something else. I also do a ton of just learning. I love to learn. So I have a Gaia subscription and I learn. And we have Udemy. So we have lots of courses on Udemy and lynda.com. And I do read books and magazines as well. So I'm so busy. Like I love all that stuff. I just have such a thirst for knowledge. And I think, I try and focus it in places where I feel energized by it. Not, I don't want to, like the news, just ignore it. Like,
Yeah.
sure, on Twitter, you can find a little bit on Facebook, like there's places you can get the news so you're kept up to date, but
Yeah, I try to stick to just the
get the highlight reel and then move on. Cause it really just, it fires up. You feel,
for sure.
yeah, just the highlight reel and move on.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
So, but we can get through this. We can do this.
we can for sure. I think especially the people who are good and are able to navigate through this really crazy time are going to come out the other side in a very strong position too, right? If you can ride this out and get to the other side of this, where people are trying to get back to normal, it's not that I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan, but he always talks about being built for winter, and this is kind of that. It's if you look at it like a challenge and not necessarily a crisis, I think it's a better situation.
That's it. And also think about it that we're not stuck at home. We're safe at home, right?
Yeah,
And
that's true.
that's a way better way to think about it. And maybe, yes, we have to retool our lives a little bit and refocus our priorities. And this is a reset.
Oh yeah.
This is a reset for that crazy hamster wheel we're all on. So maybe this is an opportunity to really take some time, create some space, maybe meditate, maybe think, maybe some journaling, like really use this time to figure those things out. Like we have a lot of time to think, and so use your time to think better things.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Teresa, for doing this interview with me, and hopefully we can get it out pretty soon and have some help for people. We've actually got like 3 in the pipeline right now, so it's just
I'm excited for you.
getting it to come out, and it's been a lot of fun. So
thank you. Take care, Andrew. You know where we are. If we can help, reach out.
Sure.
I always think a problem shared is a problem halved, even if we just talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And
right.
Entrepreneurship is kind of a lonely path, so
yes, it is.
It's even more important to make sure you reach out to people that are awesome.
Yes, it is. One of the things I'm starting on Monday actually is called Mindset Mondays. I'm gonna put on a Facebook Live. I haven't figured out the time yet, but I'm just gonna start just 15 minutes. Let's talk. Not long. It's just like, how do we keep focused, right? Just keep moving forward with our goals. And I think having someone to check in with, having other people to talk to might just help.
For sure. Have you seen John Krasinski's Some Good News that he's doing now?
Yes, I have. I like him.
It's very adorable. So I love that idea. I think Mindset Monday sounds very cool. So.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to do it. All right. I appreciate your time and thank you for interviewing me and being great to chat.
It's been great to chat too. Thank you very much for doing this, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye, Teresa.